So co-living provides community as well, and that's one of the big things that everyone's alone, isolated, staring at their phones. They have less friends than ever before. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in more debt. So it's like, well, what can we do to solve all these at once? Well, we think that the co-living house is the solution, or a part of the solution.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Richer Geek. Today's guest is none other than Johnny Wolf. He's the founder, CEO of HomeRoom CoLiving, which is elevating the home sharing concept to a new level. How you doing, Johnny?
Doing so good, Michael. Really a big fan of the show, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. When I saw this concept, it intrigued me because it's like, what I don't need is another, fix and flipper, and I, need another, all that other stuff, that we have on. But the two things interest me. Co-living is one, but then we're talking about the kind of the difference between the millennials, Gen Z, some of the things that you're seeing being a young person. And I think that the concept of what you guys are doing is pretty unique and pretty special. So a little bit about background. In 2020,
Thank you so much.
HomeRoom, your company, had a 99% on-time rent payment, full occupancy in over 100 units. That's impressive. So tell me about what got you involved in this. What got you started thinking about the co-living space instead of just doing regular rentals?
Yeah, I think what's even more impressive, Michael, and not to say that we're impressive, but I think what I'm more impressed with and that kind of every day surprises me is today we have 656 units, right? So we had 100 in 2020, and we've grown and more than 300% this year, or in 2021. So pretty incredible stuff. I think, to your point, there are a lot of people doing the same thing, kind of reading the same books, and I appreciate the hustle and the grind. But the one thing that I value so much more is creativity applied with that, right? And finding new ways of doing things that aren't just pure one for one kind of thing. Things where if you do it in a way that adds enough value, you can scale it, kind of like what you've done with hotels. With co-living, we have investors can make 50% more return because when you rent by the room, you make more money. And then you have, on the other side, rent tenants that can save 50% on rent. And a lot of these Gen Z and Millennials are thirsty for financial freedom. Really hard to do when you have a ton of college debt and you're paying, over $1,000 to an apartment building that's burdening you with fees. So HomeRoom is kind of this, I think, perfect solution for both sides, in this changing dynamic for investors and also this kind of tough environment for renters.
Now, explain a little bit about, in case our listeners don't know, what does HomeRoom do, and exactly what is co-living? What is that concept?
Yeah, so co-living is 3 or more unrelated adults living in the same place. Roommate house, a show like Friends kind of, show that, although most of those had 2 roommates. So we say it's 3 or more. So it's also pretty amenities rich. So the amenities begin at renting, where everything's digital. You have a 3D Matterport tour. You can book, you can sign a lease online. You can pay everything online. You get a digital key code to move in, so you never have to meet anyone, and you can move in on the day you're moving. It activates. And then, we use machine learning to pair roommates so that the dynamic between the roommates is, much, much better. We also, during kind of your stay, we have, customer success advocates that are working with you to improve that. There's no other property manager in the planet that I've seen that has that approach, where it's like we're actively making sure you're having a good time, giving you your feedback. And we have online community events. We have trivia nights. We have in-person events, although we've kind of put those on ice for a little bit. But we used to have like open mic nights and rock shows. So it's about online, offline engagement, but you also save money and kind of live in a community and make friends. But what it looks like for the investor is that they buy a house, we furnish the common areas, and they pay for that. But then the rents go way up with multiple occupants. And also there's no $0 months. There's
Mhm.
no month where the property's empty.
Mhm.
So you're going to make, 60% of rent even in a bad month, which is a lot better than making 0% and then paying for a lease up. So yeah, so it's a pretty good solution for both sides of our marketplace.
Now, are these single family residences or the multifamily? What are you doing?
We currently do single family homes
Mhm.
exclusively.
Okay, so for instance, you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You could put
Mhm.
3 different people in there that don't know each other. They have a shared family room, dining room, kitchen.
Yep, correct. Yeah.
Very interesting. And you can pay your rent. Everything's controlled with an app, I assume, that's on the phone.
Yep, everything's app based, and you can actually transfer to another
Mhm.
homeroom with the kind of a push of a button in our app.
Something was interesting on your site that you actually can provide maid service.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention that. We also provide maid service to the common areas on a monthly basis. I lived with roommates for 2 decades in San Francisco, San Jose, Austin, and Kansas City. And there's a few things that really cause roommate tension more than anything else. One of them is the cleanliness of the house.
Mm-hmm.
You have the really clean person that's maybe a bit more uptight potentially, then you have like the person that doesn't really care because it's just going to get dirty anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And who's right in that situation honestly doesn't really matter. Our goal is to just release the tension, and so we send the maid, they clean monthly, things don't get terribly bad. We do inspections every time a roommate moves out. We kind of walk the premises, make sure it's in great shape.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really trying to make it so if the roommates drop the ball just a little bit, we're kind of catching the ball and making sure that the house is enjoyable for everyone.
Now, how do the leases work in something like that? Are they signing 12-month leases for one room, or what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a member agreement, and it's typical. The average person will sign for 12 months. We do as short as 3 months. Pricing changes based on length of stay. But you can transition from one property to another in the HomeRoom ecosystem on the member agreement. So we've had people that have moved to Austin from Kansas City. They don't have to do much to make that happen. So,
what kind of addendums do you have? I'm thinking as a landlord myself, to try to keep the peace. What are some of the things that you can do to, all the different stuff? You can't just have a lease because now you have 3 strangers coming in and they're kind of cohabitating. How do you kind of protect them and protect yourself from all the stuff that could happen when you have 3 strangers living in the same house together?
Yeah, I mean, our lease is definitely a custom, right? We have a lot of the basics in there, but we have a release of liability clause as part of our lease, sort of like going rock climbing. You just sign it, like no matter what happens, like I can't sue you. So I mean, you're living with strangers, but you meet them. You have the opportunity to meet them first via video call or in person. They have been background and credit checked. We are working very actively to make sure the house is in great shape. So we're doing everything we can, and you have a customer success team that you can text 24/7, and they'll kind of respond to you and kind of work through stuff. So we're doing everything we can to help there. We also have a insurance policy that's $2 million of every property, which so it's a general liability policy, which pretty exciting in terms, if you're an owner, that's not that property managers don't typically have that between you and the tenant, but we do, because we have a master lease with you and a sublease with them. So we end up creating basically a buffer between you and them. To date, we have had no tenants making any attempt at legal action against an owner ever. And we've had over 1,000 tenants. We've had, no major harm come to anyone in one of our houses to date. So I think, by fine tuning how we do it, I think some things are really difficult, but if you get it right, it works really well. And so I think with HomeRoom, we're getting very close to that.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, during the pandemic, so you did well during the pandemic. I was kind of curious if you have like strangers coming together and they don't know each other, but you're saying that you did pretty well.
Yeah, we got lucky. We were sort of in a place where we had 100% occupancy
Hmm.
when the pandemic hit, and then no one moved in, no one moved out for like 4 months. That was a good time to have 100% occupancy,
Hmm.
for sure. And then we built a COVID pro. Excuse me, that was funny. Then we built a I cough as I say COVID, which
Hmm.
is like pretty ironic. Then we built a COVID protocol, so that if we'd lock down a house, we'd isolate the roommate, and they knew what to do, they knew who to talk
Hmm.
to. And so that, I think, put a lot of our tenants' mind at ease, and most of them that were with us through COVID are stuck with us, right?
Hmm.
Um, so just having doing a good job, I think, of that, and being kind of fortunate in our timing of where we were at as a company. But we see just as much demand now as we saw before COVID. Just as many people need affordable housing. When you look at the options for a 26-year-old, they can live with their parents, but that's actually sort of dangerous for their parents if they may get COVID if they're working outside the home. They could live alone, but they probably can't. Maybe they can't afford it. That's why
Hmm.
they're considering this. So it's still the best option to live with like people of in their 20s and 30s, if you need to save money and kind of not be alone. Also, people that I know that lived in studio apartments
Hmm.
during the pandemic, they were just so lonely.
Hmm.
I think people that right now are like, people that I lived with in one of the roommate houses, me and my ex-girlfriend,
Hmm.
and we had chicken wing Thursdays. We had people to do puzzles with. So co-living provides community as well, and that's one of the big things that everyone's alone, isolated, staring at their phones. They have less friends than ever before. It's like,
Hmm.
and they're in more debt. So it's like, well, what can we do to solve all these at once? Well, we think that the co-living house is the solution, or a part of the solution to that.
Yeah.
Those
So you
things.
think that's kind of the future of living because, explain to me not being a Gen Z, of course, or millennial.
You can
um,
pass was one. We'll make you an honorary
yeah.
member.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe you turn out the lights and, um, so tell me about Gen Zs and, 'cause the millennials, we know that they delayed marriage a lot. They kind of delayed getting into more debt, with home buying. Um, how are you seeing that Gen Z is going to amplify the trends or keep it going? Uh, are you seeing that? Are they kind of doing the same thing that they just don't want?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're behaving similarly. Honestly, it's a little bit hard to tell with Gen Z, because they're only 25 right now,
Mhm.
24.
Yeah, just out
So
getting out of college. Yeah.
yeah, so we don't really, even the oldest ones, we don't know.
Hmm.
But um they're definitely in the same amount of student debt.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
definitely in more, right? As a young man, and if you feel like you're in tremendous amounts of debt and can't support a family or give them a
Hmm.
good life, like most of those guys aren't going to settle down. I think Gen Z, just like the millennials, were spooked by the crazy divorce statistics. So it feels like, is marriage a good bet that I should make? Or is it a bet that I should make way slower, get to
Hmm.
know myself, really think about what I want in a partner before jumping into this thing that it seems like is really making people's lives pretty miserable, like 50% of the time. And so,
Imagine
yeah, I mean,
that.
yeah, imagine that. So I mean, it's there. I know a number of Gen Zers. I'm a millennial myself. There's not much. They're definitely stylistically different. They're definitely emotionally and communicationally different. But in terms of those core things that made the millennials super different in how they
Hmm.
went through life, there's no change that I see
Yeah.
coming on the horizon. They may pull back and get married just a little bit early to be rebels, but it's still a risky bet, right? And if you're not going to get married, 38, do you want to live in a studio apartment for 17 years after college by yourself?
Yeah.
Sounds awful, right?
Good
Maybe you have
point.
a
Good
dog,
point.
so it's a
Yeah,
little
get a
tough,
dog. They don't
but
talk
it's
back too
still,
much.
yes, true.
But yeah, it's just so different from my age group where it's kind of like, oh, hey, we had a great time this weekend. You want to get married, and then and then
Is that how?
five
Is that how
days.
you? You found love, Michael. Is that
Oh,
what
no,
you're
no,
saying?
no. Yeah, I know. Hopefully Nicole won't listen to this. No, I'm talking about friends I know, people that I've heard about.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it's very different because I mean, our national pastime seemed like it was to get a divorce. I mean, it meant nothing to people our age, when we were younger. It's just kind of got married, got a divorce, and it was like no big deal. And that to me
Yeah.
is stressful. So I kind of like what the millennials and Gen Z. It's like, why rush? I like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, like, you've got a generation of kids that everyone I know growing up knew multiple people whose parents went through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, and you watch it as a kid, I think it's even more traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very lucky. My parents are amazing. They stayed together. It was a beautiful, but even winning marriages, I think, it's not really, this isn't a conversation about marriage necessarily, but even winning marriages, are they still vibrant? Is it still an amazing way to live?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of young folks are thinking about that pretty long and hard.
Yeah.
Which
It's
means
good.
that the 3 bedroom, 2 bath house isn't the perfect fit anymore for a whole 2 decade period of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, okay, so what do we do now? We have a bunch of 3 bedroom, 2 bath houses that don't fit this makeup of this married couple with a baby, which it's just a whole hole in our society of that group right now.
Interesting. Now, let's get back to your company. How did you think about this? How did you get started? Get this thing off the ground? I assume you didn't have any money, no experience.
Yeah, those are both accurate. So in 2015, I was working in San Francisco. Because of some medical issues, I was essentially penniless. And I realized, and I had a good job, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be penniless, but I'm not gonna really ever be able to live a good life in San Francisco with this decent salary, I guess, San Francisco wise. So I'd been doing real estate investing since 2008 remotely. And so I moved to Austin, and after analyzing every market in the United States, and picked Austin as the best real estate market, I said, I'm going to move there. I'm going to do a bunch of house hacks. And so I did that. I bought over $1 million in real estate in Austin in 2015. I then turned every one of those properties into roommate houses. And so I was running basically 3 roommate houses simultaneously with a full-time job in Austin, which was a lot. And I'd kind of used up all my loans that I was eligible for. So I moved to Kansas City in 2018 to do basically the same strategy again. My Austin properties returned over 500% annually based on how much I put into them. So it was it was a good move. I liquidated about 6 months in Kansas City. I was looking for roommates again for the new roommate house I was setting up. And I was like, I'm really tired of going on Craigslist, talking to weird people, having these waste of time conversations. And so why has someone not solved this before? I looked at it, I realized roommate matching apps were not where it's at. There's not money in that transaction forever to work. And I thought, well, what if I do what I just did in Austin, but I just do it 10,000 times? So then HomeRoom was born. I emptied my retirement account. Don't do that. Anyone listening, it's a bad idea. I sold one of my favorite investment property, 1301 Central Park Court in Austin, beautiful home. And I started HomeRoom, and I burned through that $200,000 that I had in about 3 months. And I had to lay off everyone. And so then for the next year and a half, I ran the company essentially by myself. Hardest time ever. I lived in a basement in Kansas City. My sweet ex-girlfriend just stuck it out with me. We had no money. We had I had no time. And I just worked my ass off. I leased, I did ops, I did everything a property manager does. And I started to integrate different technologies to make the business work.
Now, how did you get that many homes from where you were there to now? Did you do it on your own? Do you have investors? How do you have that many houses now?
We're at about 140 today. We started at the beginning of 2020 to help investors buy the homes. And it took about a year to really make the offering, smooth and fluid. And then it took us about 3 months to figure out how to market it. And so about 10 months ago, Mike, my co-founder now, started a Facebook campaign, and we went from adding 3 or 4 homes a month to, in November, we added 17 with a goal of trying to add 100 by the end of next year. So it's really just, it's kind of like you just keep running around, you're stumbling in the darkness over and over again, just, breaking your shin, and you just freaking keep going. And hopefully you're smart enough to like solve some stuff along the way. And maybe you don't solve the easy stuff because you don't see it, but you just keep freaking going, man.
Yeah, I hear you. So yeah, we've all done that, but you learn from those mistakes, you learn from all that, and hopefully you come out a lot better. And it looks like you are. So let's talk about, everyone, the website is livehomeroom.com. And there's a there's a button on the top that says invest in a property. What's that all about? How can people, if I clicked on that, what does that take me? What happens, and how can people invest with you?
Yeah. So if you get, our process for investors, and we're really focused on out-of-state investors or remote investors, is you come to us, you can have no real estate knowledge. You need, $50,000 to $100,000, and just kind of learn the process. So you can schedule a call with us on that site. One of our real estate trained investment guys will talk you through co-living. They'll talk you through our process, very simple. And then they'll talk you through the returns. Then we'll do a second call and go through the numbers. We have a lot of, Silicon Valley data analysts that are buying with us, and they want to see how the numbers work. So we're very open book about how that works. And then from there, you get pre-approved for a loan, and then buy a house, and you pay us to set it up for co-living and let it perform. So very simple, very turnkey. Not a lot of moving pieces for you as the investor.
Okay, so let me understand, because I think I understand the concept. If I came to you, I'm going to be ending up purchasing the house, correct? In my market or your market? Have you found me the house, or do I have to find the house?
Both great questions, and sorry I skipped over those. We're in 6 markets today: Indianapolis, Kansas City, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and we're just expanding to Pittsburgh. We'll be in Tampa pretty soon as well. So those are the markets that HomeRoom offers investors properties in.
Okay.
Our goal would be to be in every city over the next 5 years. The second piece, we actually source the property. It's on market, but we're basically scouring the MLS, looking at each property. Does this work for co-living? Does this work for co-living? What works for co-living is something with a good amount of parking. It's not an HOA neighborhood. HOAs are not fun to deal with if you have roommates, or ever, to be honest. Does it have enough shared shower space? These are the big ones, right? And is the layout of the house that of which we can maximize the returns? And so we are looking at all those things. Then we'll send you a pro forma that says, hey, we found this house. Returns are within our threshold, and we're trying to get above 20% ROI. And here's what you need to do to pull the trigger on this, and and so then we'll help you make an offer.
Blue collar houses, urban downtown stuff. What kind of neighborhoods are you in?
Yeah, we are not in urban downtown neighborhoods typically, although it depends. We generally are looking for properties that still have, I'd say, B class rental grade, not core inner part of the city. We're also make sure that the crime score needs to be pretty good. We're not going to do gunshot neighborhoods. If you hear a gunshot more than once a week, we'll probably won't be there. But yeah, it ends up being highly affordable, but it's an elegant home, right? A place that probably I would, in a place that I would live, essentially, or most people that are, young professionals would want to live.
So it really sounds like it's truly passive, except, that you'd have to have enough credit to buy the house, but you have the property management. You find the house for us.
Mhm.
Do you have like a one-time fee after we do it? Is it a monthly property management fee? So after I buy the house, what is the ongoing expenses to HomeRoom?
Yeah. So at the beginning, when you purchase the property, that would just be, normal purchase transaction. We
Mhm.
never hold the property. We're not really involved there. But we do customize the property, make it perfect it for co-living,
Mhm.
furnish common areas, smart home technology. We'll convert spaces to bedrooms as well. They'll still have egress. They'll still be conforming. And so you will pay us for that. And we do have a markup on that
Mhm.
obviously, so we can run a
Sure.
business. And from there, we charge 15% of rents. There's no lease up fees. So when you average it out, it actually ends up being about the same price as a typical property manager. The difference is that we increase rents by 75%. So you actually net more than if you managed it yourself. And so that's kind of our goal, is we create more value. And so when you pay us, it actually is out of the extra we've created. And that's kind of a company value for us.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It makes sense. Instead of $1,000 a month that you'd rent it to a family, if you do $500 a month times 3 roommates, that's bigger return.
Quite a bit better. And so then and we charge 15% of that. You're still making quite a bit more than the 1,000, even after what you pay us.
Yeah. Very cool, Johnny. I appreciate you coming on. How else can people find you? I mentioned livehomeroom.com. How else can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the primary spot, livehomeroom.com. We're obviously on all the social media, LinkedIn. I post there fairly regularly, Instagram. We don't do Twitter too much. I have my own website, Johnny Wolf at johnnywolf.com, where I post some things that I read and entrepreneur's journey type blogs. So you guys are welcome to check those out. But you can email me at johnny@livehomeroom.com at any time. If you're house hacking, looking to invest, happy to talk to you and answer any questions you might have.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Johnny. This is a very unique, and I think could be very popular. I'm doing numbers in my head. It's something that I think works, and you're proving that it works. And I think it's something that's going to stick around for years and years to come. So I appreciate you coming on again, everyone. livehomeroom.com. It is Johnny Wolf. Thank you, sir, for coming on today.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and look forward to coming on again someday.
All right.